Hello, my name is Courtney Hobson, and welcome to the Maryland History Day 2017 Judging Orientation. I'm a program assistant at Maryland Humanities, which is the home for Maryland History Day. Maryland History Day is a state affiliate of the National History Day program, which is located in College Park, Maryland. National History Day is a program that spans across the country as well as internationally, with programs in Korea, China, Guatemala, and Singapore. First off, I want to welcome you to History Day and thank you for supporting the program. Whether you are an old judge or a new judge, we sincerely thank you for volunteering your time to help out with the students. More than 27,000 students across the state do History Day, so we greatly appreciate you taking your time to evaluate the students' hard work. So for those of you who don't know, there are 5 categories in the National History Day program. There's paper, website, performance, documentary, and exhibit. Students can work as individuals or in groups of 2 to 5 members. The paper category is the only category in which the students can only work as individuals. There's also a junior division, which is grades 6 through 8, as well as a senior division, grades 9 through 12. Now, History Day is a program that is open to not only public school students, but homeschool, private, and parochial. However, the majority of our participation comes from public schools across the state. How the contest progresses is most students start off doing their projects in the classroom. Their teacher might assign it, or the students just want to do it voluntarily. Some of them might form a History Day club and they work on it after school. There are different ways in which a student can get involved, but as you can see from the arrows, the majority of them occur at the school level. Then once they start their projects, they will either have a school contest or the teachers will select projects that will advance to the district contest. And then from the district contest, they send their top 2 in each category to the state contest, which is what we host. And we have this year nearly 700 students coming from across the state. And then out of that 700, we will whittle it down to between 60 and 70 students who will go on to represent us at the national contest in June at the University of Maryland in College Park. So a student's process. Most students start their projects in September and work through, if they make it through each level of the competition, they work up until April for us, or in the case of nationals, all the way up through June. They'll start off by selecting a topic of interest to them. Then they will conduct research on the topic. Then they will form an argument or a thesis statement. Then they will develop analysis to support their thesis. They will then synthesize all the information that they've gathered. They will then create the project. They will then enter it into a contest, and then they will receive feedback, which is what you're providing for them. You are going to be working in judging teams. Typically, there are teams of 3. There's a person who is designated as a captain on the team, and the captain's role is just to help organize the paperwork that is involved, help to reach consensus. The captain is not in charge of everything. You are all to reach a consensus together as a group. Every year for National History Day, there is a theme, and this year's theme is taking a stand in history. This could mean someone or a group of persons taking a stand for something, whether it is gay rights or marriage equality or civil rights, or someone taking a stand against something, or someone's failure to take a stand. The perfect example of that is Neville Chamberlain's failure to take a stand against Adolf Hitler, eventually leading to World War II. Students can pick local, national, or world history topics, but most importantly, historical perspective is key. So you're going to see a lot of projects that might be a bit more modern, such as Malala Yousafzai or perhaps Edward Snowden. That's okay if that's the point of entry for the students and what they're interested in. That's fine, just as long as they can demonstrate a historical perspective to that project. And again, the theme is very, very important here, so please keep the theme in mind when you are evaluating the projects. We do offer special prizes at the state contest level. Some of our district contests offer prizes as well as the national contests. We have 20 prizes that are sponsored by many local, historical, and cultural organizations. The students receive a plaque, as you see the student holding in the photo, as well as a cash prize. Some of the organizations that sponsor prizes are the Maryland Women's Heritage Center, the Maryland Historical Society, or the UMBC History Department also sponsors a prize in women's history. Most of our prizes are thematic, so the best project in African American history, the best project in Maryland history or women's history. We also have some that are more about a demonstration of skill, so best use of primary sources or excellence in the field of oral history. Students can self-nominate for prizes, and we also take the judges' nominations into consideration as well. As you are our eyes at the contest, you can make recommendations, and then we have a special prize committee that brings all that information together in order to make selections. We tend to give the prizes to third and fourth place um, uh, projects just to help spread the wealth around. And please keep in mind that only first round judges will make special prize nominations. So, the schedule for the day. If you are judging in the first round, and that is judges of the first round papers, exhibits, websites, documentaries, and performances, as well as paper runoffs and website runoff judges, you are to report to the University of Maryland, Baltimore County by 7:45 a.m. to the University Center building, room 312, and I will be sending an email out with the map of the campus. There is free parking, so no need to worry about that. When you arrive to room 312, you will pick up your judge packet, and we'll have breakfast for you as well as a brief orientation. And the orientation will just go over some of the documents that are in your packet as well as some more logistical things. The first round judging will start at 9 a.m. and run until approximately noon. Please be mindful that the time spent reviewing projects will vary from group to group. Some will only have 4 or 5 projects to review, some might have 7 or 8. It will also take some time to actually select your advancers to the second round, as well as to write comments. So please keep in mind that first round judges, you will be selecting your top 2 projects to advance to the second round, or runoffs is another word we have for them. Exhibit judges, you will only be selecting 1 project to advance to the second round. This is due to the sheer volume of exhibits that we have, and we do not want to burden the second round judges by looking at 10 exhibits in just an hour and a half. After you finish reviewing your projects in the first round, you will have lunch. And those who are only judging in the first round, once you have your lunch and you finish submitting all your paperwork, you can then leave. Second round judges, if you are judging only the second round, you will report to UMBC at 12:30, and we will also provide lunch for you and again go over some of the paperwork details. The exhibit hall will be open from noon to 1:30, so if you would like to go inside and see some of the exhibits, you're more than welcome to. Then second round judging for exhibits, documentaries, and performances will take place from approximately 1:30 p.m. to 3:15 p.m. And if you are judging those projects in the second round, you will not be interviewing the students. However, documentary and performance runoffs are open to the public, so if you're in the first round and you would like to go and see some of the projects, you're more than welcome to. And then at 3:45, we will begin our awards ceremony, and that should run until approximately 5 o'clock. So right now we're going to discuss what you're evaluating when you're looking at the entries. So there's three things you're going to be looking for: historical quality, relation to theme, and clarity of presentation. Now, these have numerical values attached to them. However, you are not going to be assigning numerical values to the students' projects. That is mostly for you to keep in mind what you should weigh the most when evaluating the project. So the most important thing here is historical quality, and that is accuracy. They have thorough research. They have primary sources. They also have a balanced presentation, meaning that they've looked at both sides of the argument, and they have thoughtful analysis and interpretation, and they aren't just presenting a biography. 20% is relation to the theme. The relation is adequately explained. You don't have to press further or dig further to find out how it relates to the theme. They also present the project in historical context as well as its significance in history. And then the final 20% is clarity of presentation. The project is effective and creative. Um, it's organized in a way that's visually appealing. It is clear and free of errors or distractions, and the use of equipment is very smooth. So please do not be wowed by glitz or glamour. You might have a project that is very low on clarity of presentation, but has very thorough research. The one with thorough research is the one that we would like to move forward. Why are we evaluating entries? Obviously, our goal is to encourage kids to keep learning by providing constructive feedback. Not all of the students are going to win prizes. So for most of the students, just speaking to adults who aren't their parents or their teachers is a rewarding experience in and of itself. So your feedback is critical in helping to foster a positive environment for them. And they will be receiving the evaluation sheets back from you, so make sure you write legibly. And your goal is to help us make this a positive environment, so be positive. The most important part of the process is the interview. You're going to greet the students, shake their hand if you'd like. You can say good luck or congratulations to them if you'd like. Please make sure that you're consistent in all the ways that you greet a student. For those of you who are in projects that are open to the public, they will be watching, parents will be watching, and making sure that you are treating each student in each project with the same amount of respect and interest that you showed another project. Make sure that you check your body language. And do not tell the students that this is the best project I've ever seen, and then they end up not winning. That kind of comes back to bite us. So please make sure that you're consistent all the way through. Make sure you read the documents handed to you, and we'll go over what the documents are in just a little bit. View the project, ask some questions, and we'll be sending you some sample tips and questions soon. And then once you're done with that, you're going to come back together and discuss and reach consensus over your advancers. The contest does have rules, and there are rules for every entry, as well as specific rules for each category. Why do we have rules? Well, we need to have a common ground to compare projects to each other. So again, I'll be resending the contest rule book, but I'm going to go over in just a little bit the specific rules for each category. We also have infractions and disqualifications. I'll go over the disqualifications first. There are only three things that can disqualify a project. That is reusing an entry from a previous year, plagiarism, and tampering with another entry. These are things that are going to be very difficult for you to spot. Typically, it's our veteran judges who have more experience and might be able to spot this happening. If you do suspect a student of doing any of these things, please do not act on your own. Bring this concern immediately to us. We will be giving you our contact information so you can call us while you're in the judging room, and we will then decide what to do if we confirm or suspect the project of being qualifying for disqualification. Infractions, those are things that you can control and you make a decision regarding that. A minor infraction is a violation that does not give a competitive advantage. An example of that is school name on the process paper. You are not to know what school or what district these students are from. However, some of the students might wear a school uniform or a t-shirt. There's no way of avoiding that, but the process paper should not have the school name on that, as that is very clearly listed in the rule books. Also, if a project exceeds the word count by 10 words or by a couple seconds in their performance or documentary, these are violations that shouldn't prevent them from advancing. These are things that can be fixed. So just make a note in your comments and only really take them in consideration if you need to use it as a tiebreaker. Now, major infractions are things that do exceed a time limit in a way that does give them a competitive advantage. 10 or more words, it can, give you a sentence that really makes the paper pop or your exhibit pop. So that is something that is a competitive advantage. An extra 15, 20 seconds in a documentary or performance can make a big difference. So please keep that in mind. Note that in your comments. And these entries should not advance. However, again, we respect the judge's opinion. You are there in the moment. If you feel very strongly that despite these infractions that a project should go on, again, the decision of the judges is final, but please do make sure to comment that on the sheet so that the student can make adjustments if they advance into the next level of the competition. Every single project, with the exception of papers, will have a written component. Obviously, the paper is the written component, so they do not need to have this material. The process paper should have a title page written in the way that you see here on the screen. They must have them for the performance, documentary, exhibit, and website. And they answer very specific questions, such as how the student went about researching, creating the entry, and how it relates to the theme. Please read the process paper before viewing the entry. So I would recommend for documentary and performance judges, while the student is getting set up, you briefly look over the process paper and annotated bibliography. However, they should be providing you with copies that you can take back with you to the judge's room. And I find that the process paper and annotated bibliography is especially important for documentary and performance judges, because they're going to help you to answer that question of historical quality, how they did their research. You should be able to see that very clearly reflected in the written documentation. In the annotated bibliography, it should be attached to the process paper. It should explain how each source was used in the product. And also explain what it is. And they should divide it into primary and secondary sources. And students will use either MLA or Chicago Turabian format for their bibliography. And again, you can review the bibliography while you're waiting for the students to get started with their presentation. Oh, one other note that I will make about the interview process. The students are not to do a formal presentation like they would do in school, where they're doing a book report or things like that. It's a conversation between you and the students. With the exception of performances, you'll get an opportunity to look at the projects ahead of time, so they shouldn't stand there and give you a prepared speech. One, we don't have time. And two, again, this is more of a conversation about the process as opposed to them reporting to you on the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire. I'm going to briefly go over what an annotated bibliography looks like for those of you who might not be familiar. On the left is a citation that does not have an annotation. So here it lists what the item is, what year it was produced, and where it is from. And then on the right is the same item, however, with an annotation that explains what it is and how they used it in their project. And primary, secondary sources. A primary source is an item that was created at the time of the event by someone who lived during that time period or directly experienced the event. So an example is a witness account, diaries, letters, maps, newspapers, and photographs or paintings, while secondary sources are current newspapers, textbooks, interview with an expert, and documentaries. Now, some of the students might have oral histories. If they are who interviewing someone now about an event that they experienced, 20, 30, 40 years ago, that is still a primary source because they were there and they experienced the event. However, if they are interviewing a professor or a subject matter expert on the topic, that is a secondary source. The paperwork. Again, we'll kind of go over this more in detail on the day of, but you will receive in your packets evaluation sheets. Each judge will receive an evaluation sheet, as well as a ranking sheet where you will rank the projects in order from 1 to 5 or 8 or whatever the number of projects that you have. And again, make sure that you collaborate. Everyone signs it. The judge captain turns it in, and do it. And please do it well and fill it out correctly. Just going to go over some common History Day myths. Exhibits and websites must have timelines. That's not accurate. Some of them will have timelines. However, it is not necessary. Performances must have songs. No, some of them might, and some of them might have a dance component. We do have a lot of projects this year about Soviet Union ballerinas defecting from the Soviet Union. So you might have some dancing there, but that is not a requirement. Student-conducted interviews are essential. While you are interviewing the students and it is part of the experience, the projects should stand on their own. The interview is there mostly to serve as a point of clarification for you. If you have a question about something that you're not too sure about, or sometimes the interview might help you to confirm something about the project, that is how the interview can be useful. And if you have any more questions about that, you can always email me. But the project, again, should stand on its own. And then the last History Day myth is that glitz wins. While we would like for all of the projects to look nice and shiny, not all of them are going to be able to do that. We have to recognize that there is an equity issue in our school system. So while some students might have access to an iMovie or this nice technology, and their parents might be able to afford to buy them nice costumes, not all students are going to have access to that same material. So just because the cute kid has a cute exhibit, the historical quality should matter most importantly. And then finally, there is a winning formula. You can have two projects and the students follow the same exact rules and criteria, but one might win and the other might not. It's a toss-up when it comes to History Day sometimes, and that's why we rely on you to help make those decisions. So we're going to go over specific rules about the categories. For those of you who are judging exhibits, this picture here kind of demonstrates an example of the type of exhibits you might encounter. We have Alexandria Ling on here. She did an exhibit on Madam C.J. Walker, and this is her at Nationals. You can kind of see in the front here that she has some props. Some students might have props with their project. Some of them might not. It's really up to them. The exhibits are meant to emulate an exhibit that you will see in a museum. So please keep that in mind when you're reviewing the projects. We will not have a measuring stick available for you, but most of the projects fall into the height requirements. The pictured exhibit here is the tallest at 6 feet high, so you can maybe kind of look around the room to see, compare the height of your project to the other ones next to it. There is a word limit. 500 student-composed words on the board. That does not include quotations, and it does not include credits of any visual sources. However, if they have a caption under the source that is longer than just a brief credit, saying what it is and where it's from, that does count towards the word count. Students can have media, so some of them might have an iPad embedded into the project. If they do, whatever the media is, whether it's a video or music. It should be no longer than 3 minutes, and it must be something that is controllable by the judge, and it should not be have any taped commentary or analysis. All of that should be on the board. Documentaries. You are going to judge documentaries in 20-minute intervals. Exhibits will be judged in 15-minute intervals. And exhibit judges, we're going to give you 30 minutes before the judging starts for you to go around and look at the exhibits that you're judging without the students there, so you can get a chance to kind of look at things more closely and in detail. So for documentary judges, this year I'm going to have all of the documentaries for your group on a flash drive, and I'll just hand it to you, and hopefully the students will be able to just pull up their documentary and it'll play. However, I am encouraging them to bring it as a backup in case something goes wrong with the technology. The film should be no longer than 10 minutes long. Some of them might be shorter. Please keep that in mind. If you feel as though they could have used the extra, 2 or 3 minutes to tell more of the story, that is something that you can write on the comment sheets to them about. When the students come in, they should just announce their title and say their name, and then start the documentary. The students should be the only ones narrating, interviewing, running the equipment, producing, and editing it. So if you hear a voice in the documentary that does not match the voices of either of the students involved, that is something to maybe ask a question about, who did the narration of this project, just to make sure that it wasn't an older sibling or a parent involved. The project should have end credits. They are required, and they must be readable. So if they pop by in the flash and you can't read them, that is something to make note of. And the end credits should also include citations or credit to any music that was sampled or images that were in the documentary. And no judge or audience participation should be required for the documentaries. And I'm going to be sending out a link of sample projects. If you want to get an idea as to what the documentaries might look like, or performances, or whatever type of project, I can send that out in a link to you as well. Performances. Those are also judged in 20-minute intervals. They must allow time for setup and takedown of any props. Parents are not to assist in any way unless there is heavy lifting involved. In fact, parents should not be involved with any part of the process unless power tools are needed, or to drive their child to or from someplace, or handle sharp objects. This is completely a student-led initiative. Same with documentaries. The students should just say the title of the project and their name, and they should begin. The students should be in charge of renting or buying the projects, the costumes, and they should be in charge of designing the fabric and the backdrops. Papers and websites. Papers and website judges, you should have received your projects by now. You are going to read them in advance, and then just make a preliminary decision. Once you make your decision, I will then send those websites and papers to the second round judges. The reason why it's done this way is just because of the sheer amount of time it would take to read and review the websites. It would be impossible to do it the day of, so we have to do it in advance. Papers are allowed to have an appendix with photos. Websites should have the process paper and annotated bibliography embedded into the website. And again, I'll send an example of what that looks like in an email. So this time with them is to interview them about their work. Here we have some examples of the evaluation forms. This is an unacceptable evaluation form. If you look on the left here, you can see that the judge selected all superiors. However, they still didn't provide any constructive comments. They just said, good job, awesome props, this deserves a top award. They even wrote number 1 on the paper, which is, I presume, the ranking. Please do not write the ranking anywhere on the evaluation form. We have a ranking sheet specifically for that purpose. even if you think this is the best project you've seen, there's still something constructive that you could say to the student. Perhaps they can visit a museum or read another book or look at a documentary, or maybe they can get some help with their editing or grammar. There's something that can be said or some tip that can be given to them to improve their project. This is another example of an unacceptable evaluation form. Here, the judges have left a comment that is negative and could be rephrased in a way that's positive. So, for example, your labels are crooked. There's a better way to say your labels are crooked. You can say, perhaps you should rearrange your labels in a way that is easily to be read, or another thing on this comment form is next time go to the library and stop using the internet. Please keep in mind that some students don't have libraries near them or very close to them. Some students don't have internet at home, and the only chance that they get to work on their projects is in school. So just be mindful of things like that. And another thing about the evaluation form, each judge will fill one out. However, your check marks do not have to match. However, they should still be in the same ballpark. So if one judge is ranking superior while another one ranks needs improvement, obviously there needs to be a discussion about how you guys can reach a middle ground. And your comments also do not have to be similar as well. If you are judging in the runoffs, we're only going to be giving you one evaluation form for the entire judging team, and the students will receive that one evaluation form. This is an example of a better evaluation form. As you can see, the comments are positive and phrased constructively, and any specific criticisms they have are actually backed up with examples. So they say your argument would have been stronger and more persuasive if you included more context on background of social attitudes towards women in sports. So again, they give very specific comments, and even when giving positive comments about the documentary, they are specific about what exactly they like. So here they said that they liked the interviews and the primary sources that were used by the student. And then this is the best type of evaluation form that we could hope for. Here again, the positive comments are phrased constructively. Specific criticisms are backed up. It reads like an improvement plan. Like for example, they say to maybe enlist the help of a language arts teacher to help with proofreading. They give a suggestion. You can give suggestions of books to read or museums to visit. And again, they end on a positive note just by thanking the student for participating, because the students are more nervous than you are. It's a very high stress day. So please, you can give congratulations or just say good luck to the students. That is absolutely permissible. And finally, we have the comment sandwich. Please keep this in mind when you are writing your comments. Start off with a positive comment, with a constructive comment in the middle, followed by another positive comment. And hopefully the students are smiling, the parents are smiling, you're smiling, and we here at Maryland History Day are also smiling. So that concludes the orientation. If you have any questions about anything that you've seen here or heard, please get in contact with me. I will love to help. And thank you once again.